introduction. And for those of you I haven't met, for those of you around head office, you've probably seen we've probably seen each other around, but for those who aren't, my name's Ryan. I'm the fleet manager for ground control. I've been with the business for just coming up to 9 years, so quite a while. In terms of the fleet and the company vehicles, it's massively grown in that period, where we are looking at things like transitioning from diesel to and petrol vehicles to EV, which we'll come on to a bit more. It's something that when I first was here, it wasn't a sort of something we were pushing as much as we sort of are now. So it's such a massive change as a business. What I want to do is talk for a few things, as just a few key points, as Mark said at the start. If anyone's got any questions during or afterwards, just feel free to just fire them in, and we'll have a talk about them. Mainly sort of as a business, how we're dealing with our transition, what challenges we have, how it relates to the net zero plan, what benefits it brings us, a business update in terms of our fleet, so where we are at and where we want to get to, the challenges we have with transition, and how people can get involved, and that's whether you drive a company vehicle or you don't drive a company vehicle. There are a few options for you all to get involved, if you wish to, through a few schemes and that sort of stuff, which we'll come on to. But as I say, any questions, even afterwards, if you'd rather ask a question without everyone there, I can hang around for a little bit afterwards, or you can drop me a Teams message or an email, and we'll be good to sort of just assist you with that. So starting off, obviously, there's a company carbon net zero plan where I believe we're sort of looking to get to sort of, I believe it goes from now up until 2040 as a company to get to net zero. For our own direct fleet, which is mainly what we manage in-house, we've got a target for all of our passenger vehicles to be EV by April 2025, which isn't that long away now. So effectively, every car that we have on our fleet, we will want to be electric by 2025 April, which is one of our main targets. We're doing pretty well with that, and I'll come on to some figures on that. We have a few challenges around that as well, with location and area of where people are based, and electric charging and those sorts of things, which I'll also talk about a bit further down. But we've made some really good progress with that along the way. We've also got a target with our commercial vehicles. Commercial vehicles have slightly more challenges. We've got until sort of 2030 that we want to have all of our commercial vehicles either EV or a lower emission alternative. And there are a few sort of different challenges around that, which we'll also come on to. But equally, it's a massive part of our sort of company plan, is that we want to have as many vehicles with lower emissions as possible where we can. So I think it's good to understand why we are transitioning. I think people may have seen some sort of things on BBC News or Sky or wherever, about how the government sort of going to stop selling diesel vehicles, or ICE vehicles as we call it, internal combustion engine vehicles, by 2030, which I think is a rather ambitious target. As a business, we feel like we can certainly get to that by the time that the government actually put these legislation in place. But I think for our staff, it's important to understand why we're doing it. The main thing is company values. It's much better for the environment. Lower or zero CO2 emissions is obviously the reason we're looking for the transition. Exemptions from ULEZ. So ULEZ, for those of you that don't live around London, is the ultra low emission zone, which now stretches out from pretty much, if you're close to head office, it's pretty much from anywhere inside the M25, which is going to be a major problem for some people, and also quite expensive. I think at this stage it's a slightly ridiculous decision to make, but obviously it's somewhere we're going to have to get to. And CAZ as well. CAZ stands for Clean Air Zones. A lot of cities are adopting Clean Air Zones now, where your vehicle has to be a specific type of emission or lower emission to be able to go in and out of certain zones. I think I don't know if anyone lives near one of the cities, but it's sort of Bristol, Birmingham, Bath, Portsmouth, Sheffield, Tyneside, all seem to have adopted this. So if you are taking your vehicle into any one of these zones, particularly into the sort of main city centres, please consider that this is something that you'll have to ensure your car is either at a certain standard, or you'll have to pay before you enter, similar to how it is with the congestion zone if you've ever been in London. Lower tax and benefit in kind for company car drivers is currently at 2%, so it works out better for our drivers in terms of P11D tax. You don't actually pay road tax on electric vehicles at the minute. That will probably change at some point when most vehicles are electric, because obviously like the potholes aren't going to fix themselves. So there'll be some sort of road tax on electric vehicles moving forward, but at the minute there's zero road tax. The safety features in electric vehicles are far superior to the ones in internal combustion engine vehicles. There's so many features. We've mainly got a fleet of Teslas, which I'm sure everyone seems to know about. One of my commonly asked questions is, when's my Tesla coming in my inbox? But we obviously have so many features as part of Tesla. But not only Tesla, other electric vehicles have some great safety features in terms of sort of auto drive, self-drive features is something that might come in the future. They tend to have better braking systems, electric vehicles. There's a lower fire risk despite the batteries being extremely flammable. The likelihood of the batteries catching fire is extremely unlikely. And mainly it's sort of collision warnings, lane assist, those sorts of things. A lot of these things are in newer sort of ICE vehicles, but mainly the features are superior in EVs. Rapid charging. So there's most of the EVs that we buy and we will be buying or having on the fleet moving forward will be able to be charged to at least 80% in 30 minutes, which will give people a major advantage when they are out and about and having to travel certain distances. With Tesla, they have their own charging network as well, which is really helpful. I believe if you're a Tesla driver, you'll know about that. It looks like it's opening up to more other brands other than not Tesla. Not just Tesla at the moment, which is an interesting thing to do, because I think we'll all be queuing at some point at these stations. But rapid charging's there. It's a really good reason for a transition, that we don't have any interruption to our drivers and when people are traveling sort of long distances. We're an approved home charge point installer, so we can fit charge points at our employees' properties. Obviously, we've got a whole EV charging division that we fit commercial chargers at properties and stuff, so as well as sort of business parks similar to Kingfisher House and those sorts of places. So we have that, and we also have we can make an easier transition to electric vehicles with our DE staff. So obviously people that are working on static sites, we've obviously got Ministry of Defence, a load of housing contracts within grounds maintenance. We would find a transition like that easier than a typical business that might have some more challenges if people are driving a lot more miles. We will have occasions where we have commercial vehicles that drive more miles, particularly outside of grounds maintenance, but we should find that overall transition easier. So to talk about where we're at against our carbon plan that we come up at the start, we've actually made some really good progress in our car fleet. So as you can see from the sort of pie chart on the left hand side, the two pie charts, you can see we've made a major impact in transitioning our car fleet from EV to from ICE, internal combustion engine, to EV. You can see we've got 75% of our car fleet is now EV. We want to get to that 100% mark before April 2025, as I mentioned, and we've made some major progress in that. Our commercial fleet, we're about 5% at the minute, which is lower than where we'd want to be. What we didn't want to do with the commercial fleet is, as it's a newer technology, is dive into it and end up having problems with people's usability, with charging. There are a few other commitments we need to make sure we've got in place. The main thing is about having an EV fleet is that we don't want to cause major interruption to our staff so that they can't fulfill their roles for ultimately our clients. So we haven't dived in too much into that, but as you can see, our total fleet's about 40% at the minute, which is pretty good for a vehicle fleet of 600 vehicles. It's pretty good. It's not where we would want to be at this stage, I would have thought overall, but it's consistently improving. We're in a position where we can look at purchasing more vehicles sooner. The technology on commercial vehicles is improving, and obviously our car fleet, as I say, 75% is pretty good, but we will get to that 100% mark by 2025 without doubt, for sure. Challenges. So what challenges do we have converting from internal combustion engine to EV? This is the main thing, and I think a lot of people, particularly some of yourselves, if you're not entitled to a company car and you've got your petrol or diesel car you drive around, you might think, why could I make this work? Maybe I couldn't make this work. And here's sort of touching on, as a business, what we found is a challenge for making things work. Now, financially, electric vehicles, they are probably more expensive in an outright price to diesel or petrol alternatives. Neither obviously cost peanuts, but they are both quite expensive investments when we're making them. What is less viable for us is effectively, what we don't want to do is spend. I'll give you an example. So a commercial vehicle, a standard Ford Transit, probably costs about 35,000, whereas an EV version will cost us over 40. So it's obviously making sure that we are making that saving within not having to fuel these vehicles, and so that we can make the transitions work. They are really expensive vehicles for brand new, particularly from the commercial side of things. So to make it viable is something that we've tried really hard to do. Commercial vehicles in general struggle with not just things like battery life, but it's also payload and towing. We have, with the type of fleet we operate, we have a lot of staff that would have to potentially tow something for business use. We have staff that may load vehicles with ride-on lawnmowers or heavy equipment, or many different things that we do here. We're such a diverse business and diverse fleet that we sort of really struggle with having like a one-size-fits-all option when it comes to buying commercial vehicles, and particularly when we're buying electric commercial vehicles. So it does make things really difficult, and hopefully it paints a bit of a picture for you guys on sort of the challenges around commercial vehicles, because it is completely different to cars. I think cars we can make more viable, and as you can probably see from the previous slide here, the numbers speak for themselves really in terms of how well our transition is going, shall I say. Many drivers will not be able to have a home charger installed due to living in properties without off-street charging. Having a home charger is a bit of a game changer when it comes to an EV, because obviously what it means is that you can start your day on a full charge. So obviously you start your day with a 90% charge on a Tesla or 100% charge on an EV vehicle. You can go out, do your work. If you need to pop into a charger somewhere, you can potentially do that. And then you can come back in the evening, charge again, and start your day again. Some people don't have off-street parking, and it's not only just not having off-street parking. If you think about it, with commercial vehicles, you'll also need not just off-street parking, but also the space to be able to take potentially a 3 or 4 meter van on your driveway or your off-street parking, which not everyone has that. It's quite a big sort of thing to be able to have. With our sort of contracts where people can charge it on site, that's really helpful. Housing contracts, and when people work in business parks or retail parks, there's usually chargers around. It's not too bad, but many drivers can't have the home charger installed, and that can cause a problem depending on location. The public EV charging network infrastructure isn't reliable or accessible for the mass market yet. Pretty much says exactly that. We've had some issues. There's a really good website for those of you that have an EV or are interested in EV called ZapMap, which will show you every single charger in the country. It'll also show you the status of the charger, so whether it's out of service or being used or those sorts of things. However, occasionally that information is wrong, so it's not fully reliable yet. It's not fully up where it needs to be. For those of you that live near or live around Essex, there's up in sort of near Braintree, there's a big EV charging station up there, which is, I sort of feel like we need more of them located around. I think that'll make a hell of a difference. I suppose the difference is with petrol stations is people pop in, fill up their car, leave within 5 minutes. With an EV charging, it's gonna take longer than that. However, hopefully, it will improve and continue to improve moving forward, and we can sort of improve the percentage on our commercial electric vehicles. Other low emissions alternatives to electric, such as HVO or hydrogen, are sort of unproven at the minute. They also really are ridiculously expensive. It's quite hard to look at anything else other than EV that is a low emission alternative to combustion engines at the minute. There's nothing other than electric or possibly some sort of hybrid that is out there that would be feasible for us to move into. Hydrogen is potentially something that might come in to the space. It's, I believe, in sort of Germany and some of the European countries, they are sort of looking at it and trialing it, and there's some hydrogen options here and there. HVO is potentially something we've explored. There are some challenges around that. HVO is a hydrated vegetable oil. It's like an alternative to fuel. I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, and someone might pull me up on it. I believe it's the thing that Formula One are looking at down the line to move to. So it's basically a better version, a low emission version of petrol or diesel, should we say. So you'd physically still fill up a vehicle, but nothing at the present moment in time is financially viable. Once again, a lot of these challenges are all around commercial vehicles. They're not really around cars. A lot of things are also around cost. It can be like stupendously expensive to spend the money on something that isn't fully quite proven yet. And it can also, what we don't want to do is put our carbon ambition at the sort of the grade of the sort of business, if that makes sense. So we don't want to sort of, you know, put our money in something that isn't suitable. It's going to then cause issues with our clients and those sorts of things, particularly around the commercial side of things. So that's been a real challenge for us, and understanding where we can make small wins has been something as a department we've been looking at in particular. So we have made some good progression there, but there's a lot more work to be done around that. How can you get involved? So this is sort of the final bit, and really there's a few things that we can sort of look at here. Is you and the employee. There's two sides of this really. If you're entitled to a company vehicle and you use a company vehicle for business, or you use your own vehicle for business, there is a grey fleet allowance of £3,500 available for electric vehicles. So you would receive £3,500 every year, which is a ground control incentive for using an electric vehicle. If you're eligible for a company car. So if you wish to buy your own electric vehicle and you aren't a fan of the electric vehicles that we have as our company vehicles here, that is something that you can look at. And then obviously you'd get paid your business miles as well with that. And if you want to know any more information on that, please feel free to sort of reach out to me and my team, and we can talk you through that. There are some other criteria that needs to be met with sort of personal insurances and those sorts of things. Octopus car leasing as well is another thing. This is open to all employees. I believe you have to be through your probation. It's something that you can all look at. There is an Octopus Day happening on the 7th of July during the regional conferences. I believe that they will be attending one, if not all of them, and sort of showing everyone how it works. But if anyone is interested in leasing a car, now this can be if you're a company car driver and you wish to lease a second vehicle for yourself or someone within your household. This could be if you're not entitled to a company car, but you wish to sort of lease a car because you'd like to go electric. There is options available on this Octopus scheme. The scheme can, I think, ranges from pretty much every manufacturer, and it'll also have certain deals at certain times of the year, whether there's high stocking, for example, a Kia or a Hyundai or something like that. the website would obviously potentially put offers on there for those sorts of things. We're signed up, and what happens is if you do sign up and you say, I want to get this car, you order it all through the website, and then it comes out in a salary sacrifice in your monthly pay. So it is something that is available for anyone really that's interested. I think you just have to be through your probation. If you've got any questions directly on the personal leasing stuff, if you drop Chloe an email, she's really well versed with everything. However, if you want to have a look, I'll ensure this presentation gets sent out afterwards. I think we can do that. I'll double check that with Mark, or if not, let me know and I'll send you a link to this, and you can use our invite code to have a look at what sort of terms you can get for those sort of things. And it could be something that you look to people look to transition in the future, then we can certainly support with that. That is it. In a brief nutshell, just an update as to where we're at. In terms of our fleet, as I say, we've made some great progress. We're not where we want to be, and we'd always want more, I would say. But we're making good progression. Hopefully this has provided some insight for those of you that aren't too directly involved or might have some questions or anything. I don't know if we want to spend, Mark, the last 5 minutes if anyone's got any questions, or if not, feel free to jump off.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got someone has their hand up. Let me just see who that is. Gary, if you want to jump in with your question. You're on mute, Gary, if you're trying to speak to us. Right, I'm gonna take that as a we're good. Are there any other questions that anyone has for Ryan before we wrap up? I can see Michelle's put her hand up. Michelle, if you want to jump in, you can.
Yeah, hiya, Ryan. I've just gone onto a new contract that has a lot of the ground control vehicles now, the electric models. So are we getting those charging points put in at some point?
Yeah, for charging, you're best to lean on the EV charging division, so which Tom Goodman heads up. So feel free to reach out to Tom. I think Rob Miller, I don't suppose either of them are here, but Rob Miller will be a person that you could reach out to, and he'll be able to support you with that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much. Anyone else before we wrap up? I think it was a really interesting look at what's going on. And for me, I'm new to the business relatively, so it's a real interesting look at that. Yeah, so as you were saying, we will share the slides and we'll stick them in the chat at some point. I'll do that later today. Obviously, this will be up on YouTube later. We share with your team, let people know what's happening. And yeah, just thanks, Ryan. We appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you next week for our next session.
Thanks, everyone.